Easy now, buddy. You're safe with me. Good boy. We'll get you checked out soon.
The kitchen was quiet except for the soft ticking of the wall clock and the gentle hum of the refrigerator. Morning light spilled across the table where Emily sat with a mug of coffee growing colder in her hands. The house still carried that peaceful early-day stillness, one of those calm moments before the world fully wakes up. Across the room, a small golden puppy padded slowly over the wooden floor, his tiny nails clicking softly with every step. His name was Milo, and he had only been part of Emily's life for 3 weeks. Still clumsy, still learning the house, he was usually full of playful chaos, chasing socks, tumbling over his own paws, and wagging his tail at absolutely everything. But today Milo wasn't playing. He stopped in front of the refrigerator door where a simple paper calendar hung with a magnet. His ears tilted forward. His head slowly turned sideways. And then he just stared. At first Emily didn't notice. She was too busy tracing a circle she had drawn in red marker around a date on the calendar. But Milo didn't move. No wagging tail. No playful bark. Just quiet, unmoving focus. After a few seconds, the puppy let out a small whine. Emily glanced up. "What is it, Milo?" The puppy stepped closer to the refrigerator, lifted one tiny paw, and placed it gently against the calendar. Then he looked back at her, eyes wide, almost urgent. Emily frowned. It was strange, almost as if the puppy was trying to point at something. She followed his gaze. Her eyes landed on the red-circled date, and suddenly Milo began barking. Not playfully, not excitedly, desperately. Emily felt a chill crawl slowly up her spine, because that date was still 3 days away. But what the puppy sensed was far from ordinary. Before we continue, remember to like, share and subscribe for more heart-touching dog stories. And tell me, where are you watching from? Morning arrived slowly in Emily Harper's small house. Soft sunlight filtered through the kitchen curtains, turning the pale yellow walls warm and golden. Outside, a gentle breeze moved through the maple tree in the front yard. The leaves rustled quietly like a whisper. Inside, everything felt peaceful. The refrigerator hummed. The wall clock ticked steadily. And somewhere down the hallway, a floorboard creaked as the house settled into the new day. Emily stood at the kitchen counter with a steaming mug of coffee between her hands. The warmth seeped into her fingers as she stared at the calendar hanging from the refrigerator door. It was a simple paper calendar. Nothing special. Just a few notes, grocery reminders, and doctor appointments written in neat blue ink. But one date was different. Emily uncapped a red marker and leaned closer. Slowly, carefully, she circled a square on the page. The red line curved around the number. She paused. For a moment, she simply stared at it. Her shoulders sank slightly as she exhaled. 3 days, she murmured quietly to herself. The kitchen stayed silent. Almost silent. Because a faint tapping sound suddenly echoed across the wooden floor. Click, click, click. Tiny nails. Emily didn't look up yet. She already knew who it was. A moment later, a small golden shape appeared at the edge of the kitchen doorway. Milo. The puppy was still young, barely 3 months old. His golden fur was soft and slightly fluffy, sticking out in tiny uneven patches that made him look permanently surprised. His ears were still too big for his head, and his paws were enormous. He walked into the kitchen with the wobbly determination of a puppy, who believed he was much more coordinated than reality suggested. Click, click, click. His tail wagged gently behind him. Normally, Milo's mornings began with chaos. Socks dragged across the floor. Shoelaces attacked without warning. The occasional dramatic battle with the broom. But today, something was different. The puppy stopped halfway across the kitchen. His tail slowed, then stopped. Milo lifted his head. His nose twitched once, twice, and his eyes locked onto the refrigerator. More specifically, the calendar. He tilted his head slightly to the side. Emily finally noticed him. "Well, good morning, sleepyhead," she said softly. Her voice carried that warm tone people use when speaking to someone they love without even thinking about it. Milo didn't respond. He didn't bounce. Didn't run. Didn't wag. He just stared. Emily raised an eyebrow. "What's got your attention?" The puppy took a few small steps forward. Click, click, click. His nose lifted again. He sniffed the air. Then he sat down, right in front of the refrigerator. Emily turned back to her coffee. "Probably smells the bacon from yesterday," she mumbled. But Milo didn't move. His brown eyes stayed locked on the calendar page, completely still. Another moment passed. Then the puppy leaned forward slightly. His ears lifted, and a small sound slipped from his throat. A soft, uneasy whine. Emily glanced over again. "Milo!" The puppy stood up. He stepped closer to the refrigerator door until his nose was only a few inches away from the paper calendar. His tail stayed still. His body stiffened slightly. Emily frowned. "Buddy, what are you doing?" Milo sniffed once more. Then he lifted one tiny paw. Carefully, slowly, he placed it against the calendar. The paper rustled softly under his paw. Emily blinked. "Well, that's new." The puppy kept his paw there. He turned his head and looked back at her. His eyes were wide. Not playful. Not curious. Something else. Something almost urgent. Emily felt a faint ripple of confusion pass through her. She walked closer. "What is it?" Milo removed his paw, then placed it back against the paper. Tap. The calendar shifted slightly. Emily leaned forward and followed his gaze. Her eyes landed on the red circle she had just drawn. For a second she simply stared at it again. Then she chuckled softly. "Oh, that." Milo let out another small whine. Emily reached down and gently scratched behind his ears. "That's just a date, silly." His ears flicked beneath her fingers. But the puppy didn't relax. Instead he stepped back. Then forward again. His nose nearly touched the calendar. And suddenly, he barked. A sharp, sudden sound that filled the quiet kitchen. Emily jumped slightly. "Whoa, hey!" Milo barked again. Not the playful bark he used when chasing toys. This one sounded different. Short, sharp, urgent. Emily crouched down beside him. Milo calmed down. The puppy turned in a tight little circle, then faced the calendar again. Another bark. Emily looked back at the page. Her eyes drifted slowly toward the red circle. The number sat quietly in the square. 3 days away. She exhaled softly. "It's just a reminder," she said quietly. The puppy whimpered. A small sound almost like a protest. Emily studied him more carefully now. His ears were forward. His body tense. Even his breathing seemed quicker than usual. It was strange. Very strange. "Did you suddenly develop a calendar hobby?" she teased gently. Milo didn't react. He stared, waiting. Emily stood up and placed the red marker back on the counter. "Well," she said lightly, "we've got a big day today. Park trip, remember?" Normally that word alone would trigger instant excitement. The puppy would sprint in circles, sliding across the kitchen floor. But today, nothing. Milo stayed where he was, still staring at the calendar. Emily grabbed her coffee again. "Suit yourself." She took a slow sip. The warmth of the coffee spread through her chest. Outside, a car passed quietly down the street. The breeze moved through the maple tree again. Peaceful. Normal. Emily reached for the refrigerator handle. The moment her fingers touched it, Milo barked again. Louder this time. Emily froze. "Milo!" The puppy jumped forward and pressed his paw against the calendar again. Tap, tap, tap. His tail remained stiff. His ears alert. Emily felt a tiny chill run along the back of her neck. She didn't know why. Maybe it was the intensity in his eyes. Maybe it was the way he refused to look away from that single square on the page. Or maybe it was the strange feeling that Milo was trying to tell her something. Something important. Emily stared at the circled date again. Her voice dropped to a quiet whisper. It's just a day. Milo whimpered. The clock ticked on the wall. Tick, tick, tick. Emily slowly stepped back from the refrigerator. Okay, she sighed gently. Okay, buddy. The puppy watched her carefully. His body finally relaxed just a little. Emily rubbed her temples. Guess someone woke up dramatic today. She tried to laugh, but the sound felt thin, because the moment she turned away, Milo looked back at the calendar and stared, completely still, as if he knew something. She didn't. The rest of the morning should have been ordinary. Emily clipped Milo's leash to his small blue collar and stepped outside into the cool spring air. The neighborhood was just waking up. A lawn sprinkler ticked slowly across a nearby yard. Birds hopped along the sidewalk, and somewhere in the distance a garbage truck rumbled down the street. Normally Milo loved mornings like this. Every leaf was an adventure. Every passing squirrel was a life-changing discovery. But today, something was different. The puppy walked beside Emily quietly, his small paws tapping against the pavement. Click, click, click. His nose lifted now and then to sniff the air. But his usual playful zigzagging was gone. Emily glanced down at him. You feeling okay, buddy? Milo looked up briefly. His ears twitched. Then he looked away again. Toward the house. Emily followed his gaze. Nothing unusual. Just their small white home sitting peacefully beneath the maple tree. She shrugged and kept walking. Maybe you're still sleepy. The park was only 2 blocks away. A wide grassy field surrounded by old oak trees and a wooden walking path. On most mornings, a few joggers passed through, and sometimes a couple of dog owners gathered near the benches. Today it was quiet. Emily unclipped Milo's leash and tossed a small rubber ball across the grass. Go get it. The ball bounced once, twice, and rolled to a stop. Milo didn't move. Emily blinked. Okay, that's new. She picked up the ball and tossed it again. Come on. This time Milo trotted forward slowly. But instead of chasing the ball, he stopped halfway across the field. He sniffed the ground, then lifted his head and looked back toward the direction of the house again. Emily sighed softly. All right, what's going on with you today? She walked over and crouched beside him. His fur was warm under her hand. His heartbeat felt slightly quicker than usual. Milo leaned gently against her knee, but his eyes stayed focused on the distant street. Watching, listening, waiting. Emily rubbed the back of his neck. Did you see a squirrel earlier or something? The puppy didn't respond. A breeze moved through the tall grass around them. Emily tried the ball one more time. This time Milo chased it, but only halfway. Then he stopped, turned, and began trotting back toward her. Emily laughed quietly. Worst retriever in history. She clipped his leash again. All right. Short park trip today, I guess. The walk home felt quieter than usual. Milo stayed close to her leg the entire time. No wandering. No sniffing every mailbox. Just steady steps beside her. When they reached the front yard, Milo paused. His nose lifted again. His ears slowly tilted forward. Emily unlocked the front door. Inside we go. The puppy didn't move. Milo. He stood still for a moment longer, then finally followed her inside. The house felt the same as before. Warm. Still. Peaceful. Emily kicked off her shoes and headed for the kitchen. The moment they entered the room, Milo stopped again. His eyes locked instantly on the refrigerator. More specifically, the calendar. Emily groaned softly. Oh no. Not this again. The puppy walked forward slowly. Tap tap tap. His nose lifted. His body stiffened. And then he sat down in the exact same spot as before, right in front of the calendar. Emily leaned against the counter. You cannot be serious. Milo stared, completely focused, his ears forward, his tail motionless. Emily crossed her arms. What is so interesting about a piece of paper? The puppy let out a small whine. Emily shook her head. This is ridiculous. She grabbed a dish towel and began wiping the counter. Behind her, the puppy whimpered again. Then came the soft sound of paper rustling. Emily turned. Milo's paw rested against the calendar again. Tap. He removed it. Then tapped again. Tap, tap, tap. Emily walked over. Milo. Her voice carried a gentle warning tone. The puppy froze, but his eyes stayed locked on the circled date. Emily sighed and crouched beside him. Buddy, it's nothing. She pointed at the calendar. See this? It's just how humans remember things. Milo tilted his head. His ears shifted slightly. Emily tapped the circled square lightly. That day is just important. The puppy sniffed the paper, then looked back at her. His eyes seemed almost searching. Emily felt that strange ripple of unease again, the same one from earlier. She forced a small smile. You're acting like you know something. Milo whimpered quietly. Emily stood up. All right. Enough calendar drama. She walked toward the living room. Breakfast time. Normally the word breakfast had magical powers, but Milo stayed where he was. Emily opened the pantry. The dog food container clicked open. Still nothing. Milo. Silence. Emily leaned around the corner. The puppy was still sitting in front of the refrigerator, still staring. Buddy. She filled his bowl and placed it on the floor. The metal dish made a soft clink. Milo finally stood. He walked over slowly, sniffed the food, then began eating. Emily watched him carefully. After a moment she relaxed a little. See? Everything's fine. Milo finished his meal and padded into the living room. Emily followed. She turned on the television quietly and sat down on the couch with her coffee. Morning news filled the room with calm voices and background music. For a while, everything felt normal again. Milo curled up on the rug near her feet. His breathing slowed. His eyes drifted closed. Emily smiled softly. Better mood now? The puppy gave a sleepy little sigh. Emily leaned back against the couch. The strange moment from earlier already felt less important. Just puppy curiosity. Nothing more. Minutes passed. Maybe 20. The house settled into peaceful quiet again. Then Milo's head lifted. Slowly. His ears twitched. He stood up. Emily noticed immediately. What is it? The puppy walked past the couch, crossed the living room, into the kitchen. Emily listened. Tap, tap, tap. His small paws crossing the floor. Then, silence. Emily sighed. Oh, come on. She stood and walked into the kitchen. Milo was sitting in front of the refrigerator again, exactly where he had been earlier, staring, waiting. Emily rubbed her forehead. You're obsessed. The puppy whimpered softly. Then he placed his paw on the calendar again. Tap. Emily leaned against the counter. Her voice softened. Milo. The puppy looked back at her. His eyes were wide again. That same urgency. That same strange tension. Emily walked over slowly. Her gaze drifted back to the red circle. 3 days. She whispered quietly. It's just a doctor appointment. The puppy tilted his head. Emily gave a small shrug. Nothing dramatic. Milo stared at her for a long moment. Then he looked back at the calendar and let out a quiet, uneasy whine. The clock ticked steadily on the wall. Tick, tick, tick. Emily folded her arms. All right, she muttered. You win. She stepped forward and flipped the calendar page slightly. The paper fluttered. The circled date disappeared behind the next sheet. There. She dusted her hands together. Problem solved. Milo froze. He stared at the blank page now showing. His ears flicked. Slowly, very slowly, the puppy stepped forward. He nudged the paper with his nose. The page flipped back down. The circled date appeared again. Milo stared at it, then looked up at Emily, and whined. Soft, sad, almost pleading. Emily felt that strange chill again, a feeling she couldn't quite explain. Because somehow, the puppy looked disappointed, as if hiding the date hadn't solved anything at all. The next morning arrived gray and quiet. Clouds covered the sky, softening the sunlight that usually filled Emily's kitchen. The maple tree outside swayed gently in a cool breeze, its branches tapping lightly against the window. Inside the house, everything felt calm, peaceful, almost too peaceful. Emily stood at the sink rinsing a coffee mug. the warm water running steadily over her hands. Behind her, Milo lay curled on the kitchen rug. At least, that's where he had been a moment ago. Emily dried the mug and placed it in the cabinet. When she turned around, the rug was empty. Milo! No answer. She stepped into the hallway. The bedroom door was open. The living room sat quiet. Then she heard it. A soft rustling sound. Paper moving. Emily sighed under her breath. Oh no. She walked back into the kitchen. And there he was. Milo sat directly in front of the refrigerator again. Perfectly still. His small body straight. His ears pointed forward. His eyes locked onto the calendar like it was the most important object in the entire world. Emily leaned against the counter. You've got to be kidding me. The puppy didn't look away. Not even for a second. Emily walked over slowly. Milo. Nothing. She crouched beside him and followed his gaze. The same red circle. The same date. Still 2 days away. Emily rubbed the back of her neck. This is getting weird. The puppy let out a quiet whine. Emily gently nudged him. Come on, buddy. He didn't move. She tried again, scratching behind his ears. Let's go outside. Milo stood up. For a moment, Emily thought the spell had broken. But instead of heading for the door, the puppy took 2 small steps forward and placed his paw against the calendar again. Tap. Emily closed her eyes briefly. Milo. Tap, tap, tap. He looked back at her. The expression in his eyes made her pause. It wasn't playful. It wasn't curiosity. It was something deeper. Something urgent. Emily felt a strange tightening in her chest. You really don't like that date, do you? The puppy whimpered softly. Emily straightened up and grabbed her jacket from the chair. All right. Walk time. This time Milo followed her immediately. Outside, the air felt colder than yesterday. Clouds stretched across the sky like a gray blanket. The neighborhood was quiet except for the distant hum of traffic from the main road. Emily and Milo walked slowly down the sidewalk. Click, click, click. His paws made soft sounds against the pavement. Normally he zigzagged between every patch of grass and every tree trunk. Today he stayed glued to her side. Every few steps he glanced up at her face. Then forward again. Then back at her. Emily noticed. You checking on me? The puppy blinked. His ears flicked. Emily smiled faintly. That's sweet. But a little intense. They reached the corner of the street where a small bakery sat across the road. The smell of fresh bread drifted into the air. Milo stopped. His nose lifted. But instead of trotting toward the smell, he turned around. He stared back toward the house. Emily followed his gaze. 2 blocks away, their small white home sat quietly beneath the maple tree. The kitchen window faced the street. Behind that window, the refrigerator, and the calendar. Emily shook her head. You cannot possibly still be thinking about that. Milo let out a soft whine. Emily crouched down and held his face gently between her hands. Listen to me, buddy. His warm breath brushed against her fingers. It's just a date. His ears drooped slightly. Emily sighed. I know you think you're helping. The puppy pressed his nose against her wrist. For a moment they stayed there quietly. Then Emily stood up. Come on. We're finishing this walk. They continued around the block. But the strange tension stayed with them. Even when they reached the park again. Even when Emily threw Milo's favorite ball. He chased it once. Then returned immediately. Staying close. Watching. Waiting. By afternoon the clouds grew darker. Rain began to fall lightly against the windows. Emily sat at the kitchen table answering emails on her laptop. The house smelled faintly of coffee and rain-soaked wood. Milo lay near her feet. For a while, everything felt normal. Until he stood up again. Emily didn't even look up. No. The puppy padded into the kitchen. Tap, tap, tap. Emily closed her laptop slowly. I said no. Silence. Then, a soft whine. Emily leaned back in her chair. You are unbelievably stubborn. She stood and walked into the kitchen. Milo sat in front of the refrigerator again. Of course he did. His eyes stayed fixed on the calendar. Emily crossed her arms. What exactly are you expecting to happen? The puppy's ears flicked. He shifted his weight slightly. Then he barked once. Short. Sharp. Emily frowned. Milo. Another bark. This one louder. Emily felt irritation creeping in. Okay, that's enough. She stepped forward and pulled the calendar off the refrigerator magnet. The paper slid free with a quick rustle. There. She held it up. No calendar. Milo froze. His eyes followed the paper. Emily folded it once, then twice, and placed it in the kitchen drawer. Problem solved. She dusted her hands together. But when she looked down, Milo wasn't relieved. He wasn't calm. He wasn't satisfied. He was staring at the drawer. His small body tense. His ears forward again. Emily rubbed her temples slowly. Are you serious right now? The puppy stepped closer. He placed his paw gently against the cabinet door. Tap, tap, tap. Emily laughed quietly in disbelief. You remember where I put it? Milo whimpered softly. Emily crouched beside him again. Her voice softened. Buddy, you're worrying about nothing. The puppy turned his head and looked directly into her eyes. And for a moment, Emily hesitated, because something about that look felt different. Dogs couldn't understand calendars. They didn't understand dates. They definitely didn't understand doctor appointments. Right? Emily forced a small smile. You're just being protective. Milo leaned lightly against her knee. His breathing slowed, but he didn't move away from the cabinet. Emily stood up and poured herself another cup of coffee. The rain tapped softly against the windows now. Drip, drip, drip. She leaned against the counter and stared at the quiet kitchen. Behind her, the puppy remained beside the drawer, watching, waiting. The clock ticked slowly on the wall. Emily took a sip of coffee. Then she whispered quietly to herself, You're overthinking this. But deep down, a tiny voice in the back of her mind wasn't so sure, because the date was getting closer, and Milo's instincts were only getting stronger. Morning arrived quietly. No sunshine this time. The sky outside Emily's window was pale gray, the kind of soft cloudy light that made the whole house feel calm and still. The maple tree in the yard swayed gently, its leaves brushing against each other with a soft, whispering sound. Inside the house, everything felt slower. Emily woke to the soft ticking of the wall clock. Tick, tick, tick. She blinked awake and stared at the ceiling for a moment. Then her eyes drifted toward the nightstand. Her phone screen lit up when she tapped it. 7:12 a.m. Below the time sat a small reminder notification. Doctor appointment 10 a.m. Emily sighed softly. So it's today. Her voice sounded quiet in the empty room. At the foot of the bed, Milo lifted his head. The puppy had been sleeping on a small blanket beside the bed, curled into a golden ball of fur. But the moment Emily spoke, his ears twitched. He stood slowly, stretched his front paws forward, then walked over to her side of the bed. Tap, tap, tap. Emily smiled faintly. Morning, buddy. Milo placed his paws gently against the mattress and peered up at her. His tail wagged once. Just once. But something about his posture felt different again. Alert. Focused. Emily reached down and rubbed the top of his head. You ready for the big day? The puppy tilted his head. Emily swung her legs off the bed and stood. Don't worry, she said, stretching her arms above her head. It's just a routine checkup. Milo followed her out of the bedroom, through the hallway, into the kitchen. The house smelled faintly of coffee beans and last night's rain. Emily flipped on the coffee maker. The machine hummed to life. Then she froze, because Milo had stopped moving. He stood near the kitchen entrance, completely still. His gaze locked onto the cabinet drawer, the one where the calendar was hidden. Emily sighed quietly. Oh, buddy. The puppy walked over slowly. Tap, tap, tap. He placed his paw gently against the drawer. Tap. Emily leaned against the counter. You remember. Milo looked back at her. His ears leaned forward slightly. Emily shook her head with a tired smile. All right. She walked over and opened the drawer. The folded calendar lay exactly where she left it. She unfolded it slowly. The paper rustled softly. And there it was again. The red circle. Today. Emily clipped the calendar back onto the refrigerator magnet. There. She stepped back. Happy. Milo stared at the circled date. His tail lowered slightly. His ears stayed forward. Emily crossed her arms. See? Nothing scary. The puppy let out a quiet whine. Emily knelt beside him. Listen. She pointed to the square again. This just means we're going to the doctor. Milo blinked slowly. Emily smiled gently. Humans do that sometimes. She scratched under his chin. Nothing bad. For a moment the puppy relaxed. His tail gave a tiny wag. Emily stood and poured coffee into her favorite blue mug. Steam curled upward in soft white ribbons. She took a sip. Warm. Comforting. Behind her, the puppy barked. Emily turned quickly. Milo. He had stepped closer to the refrigerator again. His nose nearly touched the circled date. Then he barked again. Short. Urgent. Emily frowned. Okay, that's enough. She grabbed his leash from the hook by the door. Walk time. Normally Milo would explode with excitement at the word. But today, he barely reacted. He followed her slowly out the front door. The morning air felt cool and damp. Clouds hung low in the sky. The street was quiet. A few cars passed slowly, tires whispering over wet pavement. Emily and Milo walked down the sidewalk together. But after only a few steps, Milo stopped. His leash tightened. Emily turned. What is it? The puppy stood still. His ears lifted. His body leaned slightly backward. Away from the house. Away from the direction of the car parked in the driveway. Emily looked at him. Then at the driveway. Her silver sedan sat quietly beside the curb. Exactly where it always was. She tugged the leash gently. Come on. Milo resisted. Just a little. Not pulling hard. Just refusing. Emily crouched beside him. Buddy. His eyes met hers. And for the first time since she adopted him, she saw something that looked almost like worry. Emily softened her voice. It's okay. The puppy whimpered quietly. Emily rubbed his chest. You're acting like something bad is going to happen. Milo didn't move. A car passed slowly down the street. The breeze rustled the maple tree behind them. Emily stood and gently guided him back toward the house. All right. Short walk today. When they stepped back into the driveway, Milo slowed again. His eyes locked on the car. Emily followed his gaze. My car. The puppy barked once. Sharp. Sudden. Emily laughed softly. Oh no. Not the car now. Milo stepped in front of her, blocking her path. Emily raised an eyebrow. Excuse me. The puppy didn't move. His body stood squarely in front of her. Small, but determined. Emily tried to step around him. Milo moved with her, blocking again. Emily blinked. Milo, seriously? He barked again. Louder this time. Emily felt that strange chill return. The same feeling she'd had in the kitchen. That uneasy whisper of doubt. But she shook it off. You're being dramatic. She gently nudged him aside and walked to the car. The puppy trotted quickly after her. Whining now. Emily opened the driver's door. The moment the door creaked open, Milo barked wildly. Hey! Emily turned. The puppy ran forward and pressed himself against her leg. His tail tucked slightly. His ears flattened. He barked again. Desperate. Emily stared down at him. Milo, what is wrong with you today? The puppy placed his paws against her knee, trying to push her backward, away from the car. Emily felt her patience thinning. Okay. Enough. She stepped toward the driver's seat. Milo jumped in front of her again, blocking the door completely. Emily stopped. The air felt strangely quiet now. Too quiet. She looked down at the puppy. His breathing was fast. His eyes wide. His body trembling slightly. Milo. The word left her lips slowly. Confused. Uneasy. The puppy whined. Soft. Pleading. Emily sighed deeply and stepped away from the car. Fine. The puppy immediately relaxed a little. His tail lifted slightly. Emily crossed her arms and stared at the car. You win. She glanced at her watch. 9:21 a.m. Plenty of time before the appointment. She leaned against the porch railing. 5 minutes, she muttered. Then we try again. Milo sat beside her, still watching the car. Still alert. Still tense. The breeze moved through the trees. Clouds drifted slowly overhead, and neither of them noticed the tiny dark shape beneath the front of the car, hidden deep inside the shadow near the tire. Waiting. Quiet. Almost invisible. The driveway stayed quiet. A cool breeze drifted down the street, carrying the faint smell of wet pavement and distant pine trees from the park. Somewhere nearby, a wind chime clinked softly against itself. Emily leaned against the porch railing with her arms folded. Beside her, Milo sat perfectly still, watching the car. His ears stayed forward. His small chest rose and fell quickly. Emily glanced at him again. "You're still on high alert, huh?" The puppy didn't look away from the driveway. Emily checked her watch. 9:24 a.m. Plenty of time, but not forever. She pushed herself away from the railing and stretched her arms. "All right," she said quietly. "Let's try this again." The moment she stepped off the porch, Milo stood. His body stiffened immediately. Emily noticed. "Buddy." The puppy trotted beside her toward the car, but this time his movements were slower. Careful. Measured. As they reached the driveway, Milo stopped again. His nose lifted. He sniffed the air once, twice. Emily paused. "What do you smell?" The puppy's ears flicked sharply. His head turned slightly toward the front of the car. Emily followed his gaze. The silver sedan looked exactly the same as it always did. Parked. Still. Harmless. Emily shrugged. "You're really committed to this theory." She stepped closer to the driver's door. Milo suddenly darted forward. He ran past her legs and stopped near the front tire. His nose dropped low to the ground, sniffing. Slowly. Carefully. Emily frowned. "What are you doing?" The puppy circled the front of the car once. Then again. His tail stayed stiff. His ears alert. Emily walked closer. "Milo." The puppy lowered his head and peered beneath the car. Then, he barked. Sharp. Loud. The sound echoed off the quiet houses around them. Emily jumped slightly. "Whoa, hey!" Milo barked again. This time he stepped closer to the front wheel. Emily felt a ripple of unease. She bent slightly and tried to look underneath the car. Did something crawl under there? The puppy barked again. But this time it sounded different. Urgent. Almost panicked. Emily straightened. Okay. She stepped back slowly. "What is it?" Milo continued barking. Then he backed away from the car and stood directly in front of Emily again, blocking her path. His body trembling slightly. Emily felt her heartbeat quicken. A quiet voice in her mind whispered, "Pay attention." She walked slowly toward the front of the car again, but this time she crouched lower. The pavement was damp beneath her hands. She leaned forward carefully and peered into the dark space beneath the engine. First, she saw nothing. Just shadow. Metal. The edge of the tire. Emily exhaled slowly. "Milo, there's..." She stopped. Something moved. Very slightly. A slow shifting shape tucked near the inner wheel well. Emily leaned closer. Her eyes adjusted to the darkness. Then her breath caught in her throat. A long dark coil rested beneath the car. Smooth. Curved. Perfectly still. And then the head lifted slightly. Two small black eyes. A narrow tongue flicking once into the air. Emily froze. The world seemed to stop moving. Her voice barely escaped her lips. "Oh!" The snake remained curled near the warm metal beneath the engine. A thick, dark body blending into the shadows. Emily slowly leaned backward. Her heart thumped loudly in her chest. She didn't know much about snakes, but she knew enough. This one wasn't small, and it wasn't something she wanted to surprise by starting a car. Behind her, Milo barked again. Emily quickly stood and stepped back several feet. Okay. Her voice trembled slightly. "You were right." The puppy trotted beside her, still barking, still watching the car carefully. Emily placed a hand on his back. Good boy. Her mind raced. What if she had just gotten in the car? Started the engine? Moved the tire? The snake could have been crushed, startled, or worse. Emily shivered. She pulled her phone from her pocket. Her fingers moved quickly across the screen. After a few seconds, she dialed the non-emergency number for local animal control. The phone rang twice. A calm voice answered. "City Animal Services." Emily glanced back at the car. "Yes, hi." Her voice stayed quiet but steady. I think there's a snake under my car. She listened. Yes, in my driveway. She looked down at Milo. And my puppy keeps barking at it. A pause. Then the operator spoke again. Emily nodded. Okay, yes. I'll stay inside. She hung up. They're sending someone. Milo looked up at her. His tail wagged slightly now. Emily knelt beside him and wrapped her arms around his warm little body. You knew something was wrong. The puppy licked her chin once. Emily laughed softly. A shaky laugh filled with relief. 3 days of warning. She shook her head. And I thought you were being dramatic. They stepped back onto the porch to wait. Milo stayed beside her, still watching the car, still alert. 10 minutes later, a white truck pulled slowly onto the street. A man wearing a green animal services uniform stepped out. He approached the driveway calmly. Morning. Emily nodded toward the car. It's under the front tire. The officer crouched down and looked beneath the vehicle. A moment later he stood again. Well, your puppy has good instincts. Emily crossed her arms. What kind is it? The officer gave a small reassuring smile. Looks like a rat snake. Emily blinked. Is that dangerous? He shook his head. Not venomous. But it can still bite if startled. Emily exhaled slowly. The officer carefully used a long pole tool to guide the snake into a secure container. The entire process took only a few minutes. Soon the container was sealed. The driveway felt peaceful again. Emily walked over slowly. Thank you. The officer nodded toward Milo. You should thank him too. Emily looked down. The puppy sat proudly beside her leg, his tail wagging gently now. The officer smiled. Dogs notice things humans miss all the time. Emily knelt and scratched behind Milo's ears. You hear that? The puppy's eyes softened. You're officially smarter than me. Milo leaned into her hand. The animal services truck pulled away a few minutes later. The street returned to its quiet rhythm. Emily glanced at her watch. 9:47 a.m. Still time for the appointment. She looked down at Milo again. Well. She opened the car door slowly. This time the puppy didn't bark. Didn't block her. Didn't whine. He simply wagged his tail. Emily smiled. Guess the danger's gone. Milo hopped happily into the passenger seat. Emily slid into the driver's seat and started the engine. The car hummed to life smoothly. She glanced at the puppy beside her. You saved the day, you know that? Milo's tail thumped against the seat. Emily pulled slowly out of the driveway. But as they drove away, she couldn't stop thinking about something. The snake had been under the car today. But Milo had started warning her 3 days earlier. 3 days. Emily glanced at him again. How did you know? The puppy simply rested his chin on the edge of the window, watching the road ahead. Quiet. Peaceful. As if the mystery didn't matter anymore. The road to the clinic was quiet. Clouds still hung low over the town, casting a soft silver light across the streets. The tires of Emily's car hummed gently against the pavement as she drove. Beside her, Milo sat upright in the passenger seat. His front paws rested on the edge of the window. His ears flicked whenever a car passed. For the first time in days, he looked relaxed. Emily glanced at him briefly. You're proud of yourself, aren't you? The puppy's tail thumped once against the seat. Emily smiled faintly. She slowed the car as they approached a red light. The world outside moved calmly around them. A cyclist crossed the street. A delivery truck rolled through the intersection. Everything felt normal again. But inside Emily's mind, the morning replayed again and again. The barking, the blocking, the way Milo had stood in front of the car door, the way he refused to let her leave. She exhaled slowly. You really were trying to tell me. Milo turned his head slightly, as if he recognized the tone of her voice. Emily reached over and scratched the side of his neck. Good boy. The traffic light turned green. They continued down the road. 10 minutes later, the small brick building of Greenridge Family Clinic appeared at the corner of Maple Street. Emily pulled into the parking lot. The lot was quiet. Only a few cars sat scattered between the painted lines. Emily parked and turned off the engine. The sudden silence felt peaceful. For a moment, neither of them moved. Emily rested her hands on the steering wheel. You know, she murmured softly, if you hadn't stopped me this morning. Her voice trailed off. She pictured it clearly now. Starting the car. The engine vibrating. The snake hidden beneath the wheel well suddenly disturbed. Maybe crawling out suddenly. Maybe striking in panic. Maybe sliding across the driveway. She shivered. Yeah, she whispered. That could have gone badly. Milo watched her quietly. His warm brown eyes blinked slowly. Emily smiled and opened the car door. Come on. The puppy hopped down beside her. The clinic doors slid open with a soft mechanical sound. Inside, the waiting room smelled faintly of antiseptic and fresh coffee. A soft instrumental song played quietly through hidden speakers. A few patients sat scattered around the room reading magazines. Emily approached the front desk. Good morning, the receptionist said warmly. Emily smiled politely. Emily Harper. 10 o'clock appointment. The receptionist typed briefly on her keyboard. Dr. Bennett will be with you shortly. Emily nodded. Thank you. She took a seat near the window. Milo settled beside her chair. His head rested against her leg. The puppy's breathing was slow now. Calm. Peaceful. Emily stared out the window at the cloudy sky. Her thoughts drifted again. Back to the kitchen. Back to the calendar. Back to 3 days ago. Milo. The puppy lifted his head slightly. How did you know? His tail gave a small wag. Emily laughed softly. Yeah, I didn't think so. A nurse opened the hallway door. Emily Harper? Emily stood. That's me. Milo followed closely as they walked down the quiet hallway. Fluorescent lights glowed softly overhead. The nurse guided them into a small exam room. Dr. Bennett will be right in. Emily sat on the edge of the examination chair. Milo settled beside her feet again. The puppy looked around the unfamiliar room with curious eyes. Metal instruments. White cabinets. A small sink. A few minutes later the door opened. Dr. Bennett stepped inside with a friendly smile. Good morning, Emily. Morning. His eyes dropped toward the puppy. Well, hello there. Milo wagged his tail politely. New family member? The doctor asked. Emily nodded. 3 weeks now. Dr. Bennett chuckled softly. Looks like he's already taken his job seriously. Emily smiled. You have no idea. The doctor sat down and began checking her chart. Everything feeling all right lately? Emily nodded. Yeah, just the routine checkup. Dr. Bennett began the usual exam. Listening to her heartbeat. Checking blood pressure. Simple questions. Simple answers. The calm rhythm of a normal doctor visit. But halfway through the appointment the doctor paused. He glanced down at Milo. The puppy was sitting directly beside Emily, watching her, completely focused. Dr. Bennett smiled. Your dog is very attentive. Emily looked down. Milo's ears flicked slightly. He's been like that all week. Dr. Bennett chuckled. Dogs are good at sensing things. Emily nodded slowly. I'm starting to believe that. The doctor finished writing a few notes. Well, everything looks good. Emily exhaled softly. Glad to hear it. The appointment ended quickly. Within minutes they were walking back through the waiting room. The sky outside had brightened slightly. A few rays of sunlight pushed through the clouds. Emily stepped outside and breathed in the cool air. Milo trotted beside her. Happy, light, carefree again. Emily stopped beside the car. She crouched down in front of him. Her hands gently held the sides of his small face. Listen, mister. Milo tilted his head. You saved me today. The puppy blinked. Emily's voice softened. You didn't give up. She smiled warmly. Even when I thought you were being ridiculous. Milo licked her chin quickly. Emily laughed. Okay. She stood up. They climbed back into the car. As Emily started the engine, she glanced at Milo again. You know something? The puppy rested his head against the seat. Emily smiled. From now on. She tapped the steering wheel lightly. When you warn me about something. She paused. I'm listening. Milo's tail thumped gently. And for the first time since the strange week began, the tension was finally gone. But the story between them was only just beginning. The rain returned that evening. Not heavy, Just a gentle drizzle that tapped softly against the windows of Emily's house. The maple tree outside swayed in the wind, its leaves brushing together with a quiet rustling sound. Inside, the house glowed with warm lamplight. Emily sat curled into the corner of the living room couch, a soft blanket pulled over her legs. A mug of tea rested in her hands, steam drifting upward in slow curls. The day had been long, strangely long, and now that everything was quiet again, her mind kept drifting back to the morning, back to Milo, back to the driveway, back to that moment beneath the car. She exhaled slowly. Across the room, Milo lay stretched out on the rug, completely relaxed now. His paws twitched slightly as he dreamed. Emily smiled softly. "You look proud of yourself." One of Milo's ears flicked, but he didn't wake. Emily leaned her head back against the couch and listened to the rain. Drip, drip, drip. The house felt peaceful, safe, but the strangest part of the day still circled through her thoughts. 3 days. 3 full days Milo had warned her. The calendar, the barking, the blocking, the whining. Emily shook her head slowly. "How did you know?" The puppy shifted slightly on the rug. His eyes blinked open. He lifted his head and looked at her. Emily smiled. "Did I wake you?" Milo stood and stretched his front legs forward, his tail lifting into a lazy wag. He patted across the room. Tup, tup, tup. Then he jumped gently onto the couch beside her. Emily laughed softly. "Well, hello there." Milo curled beside her hip. His warm body pressed comfortably against her leg. Emily scratched behind his ears slowly. "You had a big day today." The puppy sighed happily. Emily took a sip of tea. Then her eyes drifted toward the kitchen doorway. The refrigerator was just visible from the couch, and hanging on it, the calendar. The red circle still marked the date. Emily stared at it quietly. Milo followed her gaze. His ears flicked. Emily noticed. "You remember that thing, huh?" The puppy watched the kitchen for a moment. Then he looked back at her. This time, there was no tension in his eyes. No urgency. Just calm. Emily smiled faintly. "Guess the danger's gone." The puppy rested his chin against her leg. The rain continued tapping against the windows. Emily leaned her head back again. "You know something funny?" Milo's tail gave a slow wag. "I almost ignored you." Her voice softened. "I thought you were just being stubborn." She paused, then chuckled quietly. "Turns out you were the smartest one in the house." Milo lifted his head. His eyes blinked slowly. Emily scratched his neck again. "You really didn't give up." She thought back to the morning in the driveway. The way he blocked her. The way he barked. The way he trembled when she tried to open the car door. Emily felt a warm ache in her chest. "That's loyalty," she whispered. The puppy shifted closer to her. Outside, the rain softened. The clouds slowly began to thin. Moonlight started to slip between the branches of the maple tree. Emily glanced toward the kitchen again. The calendar page moved slightly in the breeze from the air vent. The red circle looked different now. Earlier it had felt heavy, important, a reminder of something serious. Now, felt like something else entirely. Emily smiled gently. Today wasn't just a doctor appointment. Milo looked up at her again. Emily rubbed his soft golden fur. "It was the day my puppy saved me." The words hung quietly in the warm room. The puppy wagged his tail. Emily laughed softly. "Don't get too confident." She leaned down and kissed the top of his head. "You're still not allowed to chew my shoes." Milo's tail thumped harder. Emily set her empty mug on the table. Then she pulled the blanket slightly over both of them. The puppy curled closer. The house felt peaceful, comfortable, like something important had quietly changed. Emily looked down at Milo. "You know what?" The puppy blinked sleepily. "I think we understand each other a little better now." Milo yawned. A wide puppy yawn that showed tiny white teeth. Then he rested his head against her lap again. Emily gently ran her fingers through his fur. Slowly, calmly. The clock ticked softly on the wall. Tick, tick, tick. Outside, the rain finally stopped. And inside the warm little house, a quiet understanding settled between them. One that didn't need words. One that only needed trust. Morning sunlight returned the next day. Warm, Golden. Gentle. It slipped quietly through the kitchen window, stretching across the wooden floor in soft glowing lines. The house felt peaceful again. The storm clouds from the night before were gone, leaving behind clear blue skies and the fresh scent of rain-washed air drifting through the open window. Emily stood at the kitchen counter, stirring her coffee slowly. The spoon clinked softly against the mug. Across the room, Milo padded into the kitchen. Tap, tap, tap. His fur looked slightly messy from sleep, his ears still tilted in that permanently curious way. Emily smiled when she saw him. Well, good morning, hero. Milo wagged his tail lazily. He stretched his front paws forward and let out a big puppy yawn. Emily chuckled. Rough night guarding the house? The puppy trotted over and sat beside her. His tail thumped lightly against the cabinet. Emily reached down and scratched behind his ears. You've been promoted, you know. Milo tilted his head. Emily pointed toward the living room. Official protector of the household. The puppy blinked slowly. Emily laughed. Don't let it go to your head. She poured some kibble into Milo's bowl. The metal dish made a soft clink against the floor. Breakfast time. Milo stepped forward eagerly this time and began eating happily. Emily leaned against the counter and watched him. The tension from the past few days felt like a distant memory now. The house felt light again. Calm. Safe. But something inside Emily had shifted. Something quiet. Something meaningful. Her eyes drifted toward the refrigerator. The calendar still hung there. But today, the page had changed. Emily had flipped it that morning while making coffee. The red circle date was now tucked neatly behind the previous page. Yesterday. Already passed. Already finished. She walked over and touched the paper gently. For a moment she simply stood there, thinking. Milo finished eating and trotted over beside her. His nose twitched as he sniffed the refrigerator door. Emily glanced down. You checking the calendar again? The puppy looked up at her. His tail wagged slowly, but this time, he didn't bark. He didn't paw the paper. He didn't whine. Emily smiled softly. Guess that problem solved itself. She crouched down beside him. You knew something was wrong before I did. Milo blinked. Emily gently held his face between her hands. And you didn't stop trying. The puppy leaned forward and licked her cheek. Emily laughed. Okay. She stood up again. Sunlight filled the kitchen now. Birds chirped somewhere outside. The whole world felt bright and alive again. Emily grabbed Milo's leash from the hook near the door. Walk. The puppy's ears lifted instantly. His tail began wagging much faster now. There it was. His normal puppy excitement had finally returned. Emily opened the front door. Cool fresh air rushed inside. They stepped out onto the porch together. The maple tree swayed gently above them. Droplets from the previous night's rain still clung to the leaves, sparkling in the sunlight. Emily walked down the driveway, the exact same driveway where Milo had blocked her just yesterday. She paused beside the car. Her eyes drifted toward the front tire. The place where the snake had been felt strange now, almost unreal. Emily looked down at Milo. You remember this spot? The puppy sniffed the pavement briefly. Then he looked back up at her. His tail wagged. Relaxed. Calm. Emily smiled. Yeah, I think the danger's gone too. They continued walking down the sidewalk together. Morning life moved peacefully around them. A neighbor watered their lawn. A jogger passed by with headphones. A child rode a bike slowly down the street. Emily glanced down at Milo again. The puppy trotted beside her proudly. Ears bouncing. Tail wagging. Completely happy. Emily felt warmth spread through her chest. You know something? Milo looked up. You're a pretty special little dog. The puppy's tail wagged harder. Emily laughed softly. But I guess dogs have always been like that. She looked out at the quiet street. They notice things we miss. The breeze brushed through the trees again. Emily slowed her steps. And sometimes, she looked down at Milo. They protect us in ways we don't even understand. The puppy trotted closer to her leg, his shoulder brushing gently against her calf as they walked. Emily reached down and ran her fingers across his soft golden fur. That simple touch carried something deeper now. Trust. Gratitude. Quiet kind of love. They reached the park a few minutes later. Sunlight filtered through the tall oak trees. The grass sparkled with leftover raindrops. Emily unclipped Milo's leash. "Go on." The puppy sprinted forward instantly. Pure joy. He chased a bouncing ball across the field, skidding slightly in the wet grass before spinning around and racing back toward her. Emily laughed. "That's more like it." Milo dropped the ball at her feet. His tongue hung happily from his mouth. Emily tossed the ball again. As the puppy ran across the field, she felt something settle gently in her heart. Life would bring strange moments, unexpected dangers, little mysteries no one could fully explain. But she knew one thing for certain now. She would never ignore Milo's instincts again. The puppy returned with the ball and sat proudly in front of her. Emily knelt and hugged him tightly. "You and me, buddy." Milo wagged his tail. Emily whispered softly, "Unbreakable." The breeze moved through the park again. Leaves rustled overhead. And somewhere in that quiet morning light, it felt like Milo understood every word.